That down. Let's move on to this. Something we would have talked about on Friday had we done a show on Friday, but we'll get around to talking about it now. Huge news hit the movie world as the two biggest upcoming movies in the next 3 to 5 years have both been delayed by about 7 months. As written in Variety, Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars have both been pushed from what I believe were going to be May release dates to December release dates each. So Doomsday, which was going to come out, I believe, in May of 2026, now coming out in December of 2026. Secret Wars, which was going to come out, I believe, in the May window of 2027, now coming out in the December window of 2027. The Variety article wrote this: the Avengers will need a few more months to assemble. Disney has delayed the release of Marvel Studios' upcoming team-up features, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Doomsday is now set to debut on December 18th of 2026, moving about 7 months off its originally slated date of May 1st, 2026. To match the follow-up, Avengers Secret Wars is moving its release date to December 17th, 2027, after previously being set for May 7th, 2027. All right. So it's not like they're moving by years, but they are moving by a significant amount, 7 months. This past weekend, in the ensuing days since this came out, I have seen the most idiotic tripe out there. Again, this happens in all of movies. When anything happens, there are going to be about 45 radically insane theories out there. Some people saying, well, they needed more time to make the movies. They did not need more time to make the movies. These people do this for a living. They know what they're doing. When they set the release schedule, they have what's called line producers who sketch out everything. They know exactly down to the minute, Rob, what they're going to shoot on 38 days from now at 2:05 p.m. We'll be shooting this scene, sort of thing. They have it all mapped out, planned out, and they set those dates and they set the start production date knowing exactly what they were doing. And they had plenty of time. Because remember, they may have only started rolling the cameras about a month or so ago on Avengers Doomsday. Work on Avengers Doomsday started like 6 months ago. Like all this stuff is being done. They would have been ready to go. There's no doubt about it. And a lot of different theories. Now, listen, when you have the job that I have, you get fed a lot of information. 95% of it is BS. And I get fed a lot of stuff that I know is not true, and I never talk about it. Sometimes I get fed stuff that I think might be true, and turns out it's not. But also rarely, but does happen sometimes, I get fed information and I don't believe it. And then later, maybe it turned out to be true. You guys know there were some reports going around a couple of months ago that Disney may have been looking at moving their movies to their December window anyway. Something I ignored and a lot of other people ignored. I got told the same thing, didn't believe it at all. And now, as it turns out, they are moving into December. But I'll tell you exactly why they're moving these Avengers movies to December. Money. They're moving it because of money. Now, the reason I didn't believe this a couple of months ago when somebody first told me that they were looking at moving it to December, and why I think a lot of other people didn't, is just like they know exactly how they're going to shoot their movie and what the time they need is. They know their release strategy before they announce these things. So I'm like, nah, I don't believe that. But there was a little movie you guys might remember called Spider-Man No Way Home, which is the highest grossing Marvel film that does not have the word Avengers in front of it. It almost joined the $2 billion club. It made $1.9 plus billion at the box office. You know when it came out?
I'm going to guess
December 17th. December 17th. Now, I believe the movie landscape and release windows have changed a lot in the last 5-6 years, because I no longer believe there's any bad month to release a movie. I think there used to be like dumping ground timeframes. Mm-hmm. I literally believe now that every month is a valid release window. I just don't think there's any bad ones. But that doesn't mean there aren't one or two that are absolutely better than others. And especially over the last couple of years, the Christmas season is the gold mine. Mm-hmm. The Christmas season is what the summer season used to be. That's when the movies make the biggest bank, is when you put them out there. And I do not think it's a coincidence that both movies happen to go on December 17th and December 18th. That's why they're there. It's to make what would have been a $2.1 billion movie into a $2.7 billion movie. It's going to take a movie that would have been a $1.8 billion movie to a $2.2 billion movie. We are talking hundreds and hundreds of millions of extra dollars these movies are going to make, specifically because they're coming out in the Christmas season. And it's just the way the movie going and patterns have evolved. Could there be some other influences there? The person I talked to suggested there could be, like there may be a couple of other things too, but the main driving thing behind this is money. And they know this is the window to put them in. This is why Star Wars movies had traditionally started coming out in the Christmas season before. This is why the Avatar movies are coming out in the Christmas season. This is why Spider-Man made 1.9 billion instead of 1.3 or 1.4. They're putting these things in there because this is the highest grossing window to get, and this is where it's going to make its most money. Now, if Kevin Feige were in here and I injected him with, sodium pentothal, the truth serum, and got him to speak, maybe he would reveal it's actually something else. Possible. But I think this is one of those, the easiest, most obvious answer is the answer. They move these movies here, so they're going to make more money in these windows. And that's how I see it. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Ridge. Hey guys, listen, I love this thing. This is my Ridge wallet. And honestly, I think it's the last wallet I'll probably ever need. I used to carry around this huge, bulky leather beast stuffed with receipts, old cards, and frankly, way too much junk. It messed up my back when I would sit down on it with my back pocket. And since switching to Ridge, game changer. This thing is sleek, compact, holds up to 12 cards plus cash, and it still fits perfectly in my front pocket. I've got the carbon fiber one. It's ridiculously durable and looks amazing. You can choose from over 50 different colors and styles too. And in today's world, this part is key. It's got RFID blocking tech built in so you can keep your info safe from digital thieves. Peace of mind and style? Absolutely. Another added bonus is if you're like me and constantly misplacing your stuff, they even have an AirTag attachment so you can always know where your wallet is. And to make this even better, Ridge gives you free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and a lifetime warranty on all of their products, wallets, key cases, even suitcases. Right now, Ridge is having their huge Memorial Day sale. Get up to 40% off at ridge.com/Campea. That's ridge.com/Campea. And after you buy, tell them our show sent you because it helps a lot. Anyway, Rob, you saw the delay. What's the first thing that stood out to you, and what do you see as being maybe the main driving factors behind these moves?
Well, I think you make a really good point. But the Avengers, four previous Avengers movies came out in late April, early May, and they made a ton of money. You know, I think the lowest grossing Avengers movie was Age of Ultron, and that was 1.4 billion and change.
Yep, huge box office.
This is a huge franchise. I think that if it isn't money, I'm going to play devil's advocate, not paid for devil's advocate, but play devil's advocate.
I knew you were a shill.
I think that they've realized that this story, because we've heard reports that there hasn't been a full script.
Yeah, I've never believed those reports at all. But those
we also know,
around.
but all the way back to Iron Man 1, these movies have had an iterative, you hear how they were going into rooms and like Robert Downey Jr. was coming up with scenes, but even in Iron Man 1, they were kind of writing it as they went along. I think they realized that strategy was certainly not going to work on this movie. This movie, with all of these characters, you could have the best laid plans of mice and men. There is so much going on in not just the first movie, but in the second movie, because they're shooting them concurrently, that they realized they just had too much to do. They're servicing way more characters than they've ever serviced. They're trying to finish off a bunch of storylines. And I think that they also run into, the fact is, these are effects-heavy films, hugely effects-heavy movies. And I think there was two things that we haven't considered either. There's the Vision TV series and the Wonder Man TV series that we don't even have dates on. And both of those characters are big in terms of Avengers mythology. And I think they could have thought, because Vision's shooting in London right now, or they've been working on there in post, and they're like, there's opportunity here that we didn't consider. And I'm not saying they're going to put Wonder Man or Vision. I don't know anything about that. I've not talked to Terry Matalas at all. But I would say Vision's a pretty heavy hitter since Age of Ultron in terms of an Avengers character. And I do think that there's room for iteration that has happened where they're like, we didn't consider that. Or maybe Vision has come out, they figured out a way to go from the series into the movie. Then another thing that I want to know is what's Sony going to do? Are they going to move Spider-Man?
Which was, by the way, that's one of the more interesting points, because Spider-Man 4 was going to be coming out after
it was going to bridge
Avengers
the two
Doomsday,
movies.
but now it's coming out before Avengers Doomsday.
Well, they haven't moved it yet.
No, but it's scheduled for July, I think, 2026.
Yeah, so are they going to have to change the movie? I mean, this whole thing is, it doesn't surprise me that they've moved moving movies. Look, Disney moved Avatar a year, Avatar 3. No one cared. They understood that it takes that long to make these movies. I was making the point on a show the other day that the render times for Avatar, just the render times, are enormous. They literally couldn't make a date last year because they're rendering in. But so I don't know. I mean, I would like to think, in my own mind, I think money is an issue, but I also think that they needed more time. I think for these particular movies, it might have been a combination of the two.
Chris, what do you think about this?
I mean, I agree with you that I think it is a combination of we need more time and also cost and everything and making back your money. In project management, there's something called like the triangle of project management, and it talks about scope, time, and gosh, what's your other one? Cost, ultimately. So the scope, right? Your deliverables. And this is a film that has, or these are films that have so much scope. There's a lot happening. They're behemoth concepts to bring to the screen. And so that is going to take a lot of special effects, a lot of actors. You've got a lot of moving parts. And so you are going to have such a high increase in how much you need to spend. Also, you need to have a banger script here. You really, really do. And these are things that are going to not only add to the overall scope of this project, but the time it takes, the cost it takes. So doing some kind of move to position yourself to get as much return on your investment as possible makes a lot of sense. But also giving yourself the runway to actually do the job right, I think is really smart. And I think probably what's going on here. You know, you can do things good, fast, or cheap. And you really cannot have all three of those, right?
Yeah, good, fast, cheap, pick two.
Exactly. And so in this case, for these kinds of movies, if you want good, you're really going to sacrifice two of those. And I feel like that's why we're having this delay.
And Mood, the one thing about the thing about money in December is great, but they're also moving into a very competitive time as well, where they've got things like the third Dune movie is coming out. There's a lot of big franchise properties that they now are going to have to contend with in those same December waters.
Yeah, but recent history has shown us you can put, especially in the Christmas season, you can put big multiple tentpole films and they can all do
100%.
really, really well.
100%.
Like, I think if this movie, let's say they moved it to August, right? They moved Doomsday and they moved it from May, June, July. Let's even say September, like giving it 4 extra months. I could buy more into that theory, but specifically because they put them on December 17th and December 18th. I mean, I agree with everything you guys are saying about the script and stuff like that, but I think this script was done by the time they walked Robert Downey Jr. on stage at Comic-Con. I think they had their schedules made. I think they knew exactly which visual effects houses were going to be working on which they were probably already working on visual effects shots before cameras ever started rolling. I just don't see this as being one of these things like Kevin Feige, having made 30 plus of these, went, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting this to be that big of a project. I just don't see that happening. And again, I might buy into it more if it was August or if it was September, but because it's specifically the Christmas season, I don't know. But to Chris's point, I mean, the move may have the added benefit of, hey, since we're doing this, I mean, we can also now do this. But I still think the primary, I mean, we may find out that you guys are right. I'm just saying for now, I still think the primary motivating factor here was we're going to make somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 to $400 million extra dollars because we put it in this release window instead of this one. I don't know. You had something you wanted to add.
I feel like, especially coming off of Captain America and the Thunderbolts, which the Thunderbolts, arguably, great film, but just didn't perform as well as they wanted to. Captain America, we had a lot of more issues with the narrative and things like that.
Captain America.
I feel like this might be one of those things, because you guys also got to read the Secret Invasion script, right? a lot of times what seems great on paper when it comes down to the execution is not working.
Right.
And I think that's possibly something coming up too, to your earlier point of like RDJ doing no, let's rework this scene. Let's come up with this. I think this would be fun. I think for something where they are really trying to create another Avengers event, something that is a cinematic event that people go to and see multiple times in theaters and yell in their seats and everything, I feel like there's the potential of, oh, this looked good when we wrote it down. This isn't working with all 10 of you here now.
Yeah, well,
Let's
that's the
change
thing.
it
You
up.
get those actors together. There was a picture of them eating dinner in someplace where they were shooting, and it's like
Shawarma.
what something like that. But I can't imagine what it was like to get all of those actors in a room. It'd be like herding cats. They probably started riffing and coming up with stuff that was better, and they're like, wait a minute. If this is how long it's going to take us to shoot for one day, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I've heard nothing about the actual production of this movie that isn't just rumor.
Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, they've now moved into the primest of prime release date real estate today, which is in the Christmas season for both Doomsday and Secret Wars. And now I don't even know where you put the ceiling box office for these movies. It's going to be an exponentially ridiculously high. It was going to be high already, but this is going to be crazy. What do you think their main motivating factor behind it was? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.